She sat in the salt circle she had just cast. She was certain it would protect her. She had studied and tried before, but this time would work. This she was certain of. As she ran through the checklist in her mind of what she had to do, the salt circle, the ritual chant, the casting of the petals, and more, she remembered how she'd got to this point, and why it was so important. She remembered being 17 and being so in love with her first boyfriend, a 19-year-old who played in a perpetually struggling rock band. And surfacing in her mind, as she remembered him, was the still vivid memory of how she had watched him summon an image of a spirit in his darkened bathroom mirror in the middle of the night during a cold December winter. And what passed through her mind with the faint memory of what vicious sobbing feels like, with the memory of her mother's cancer diagnosis 2 years ago, inoperable, terminal, and she knew as she sat in that salt circle, just as she did then, that her mother was all she had. Father had left when she was 5, nowhere to be found and no other family. She knew then and now that she'd do anything to save her. Even call down an abomination against God himself, and to flout the divine laws that upheld the universe, if it would do what needed to be done. She had spent a month combing the internet until she found what she needed, a healing spirit that could heal any ailment. Then she found a binding spell. She felt such relief, such joy and excitement when she found that, so much that for the rest of the week her heart was full with the spring in her step. When she had found those materials, she knew everything would be all right. She didn't doubt. How could she? She had put all her faith and trust in the hope that she had summoned within herself, the hope that everything would be all right. Her mind refocused from memories to the present. She began to recite the ritual's chant, and as she did, it occurred to her that this could be dangerous. That she could be playing with something far beyond her control. But as she finishes the ritual's chant and begins to cast the petals of the dead rose outside the circle, she pushed those thoughts from her mind. She had taken precautions. She had cast the salt circle, cast the protection of binding spells. Knowing that she knows what she's doing, she felt reassured, and she pushed the lingering doubts from her mind. She waited. And waited. Moments that seemed like eternity passed, and then it worked. She felt the rushing of wind. She felt the temperature drop, and she saw things. She blinked and saw her father just as he appeared when he left all those years ago, but his face rotting and cockroaches running wildly out of the empty sockets all over his face. He smiled a toothless smile at her from across the room. When she blinked again, her father was gone. She breathed heavily, terror beginning to strike at her heart, but still she continued. The protection and binding spells would hold, she told herself. She heard whispers in languages as ancient as Babylon itself, and the floorboards creaked with invisible steps. Feeling a presence just behind her, she heard a voice speak to her, and she realized that it was Daniel, the cute boy from 9th grade who, just before summer break, killed himself in the school bathroom. His wrists slit open and bled dry as his body sat slumped on the toilet inside the bathroom stall. "Dance in eternity," he whispered in a low, dry, wheezing rasp. By that point, she was finally well aware that she should feel fear. Regardless of the spells she had put in place, this was too much. Far too much. This wasn't what she expected, not what she signed up for, but she didn't. The terror had faded away. Feeling strangely different, she stifled a giggle, but, unable to contain it, let it out, her laughter echoing through the room. Something was happening to her, but she was too happy to care. Somehow, strangely intricate thoughts popped into her mind from nowhere. She knew what else was required, though it wasn't listed in any of the materials she had downloaded off the internet. Eagerly reaching into her pocket, she took out a Swiss Army knife and cut into her arm, letting loose blood inside and out from the circle. She smiled, a smile of aesthetic glee, as she cut into her flesh, the pain feeling sweet to her as it had done before. As it shall be done, so shall be done now. Her mood had changed, shifted wildly. She wanted this. She needed this. She was willing to give up anything for it, and for some reason, her mother's predicament no longer factored into her mind at all. In any way, as she continued the ritual. "Come on. Oh, come on, come on." She begged the beginning of the great beyond from which she called it. She needed this. Oh God, how she needed it. She closed her eyes, and then, feeling a presence, she opened them. There it stood, a being, beautiful, mighty, and majestic, its dark hooves stomping lightly on the floor, and its bat-like wings spread beautifully above it. Its dark eyes smiled down at her, and its dagger-like teeth shone in the candlelight. Looking up at it, she smiled with love and warmth filling her heart. Tears of pure joy and abandon run down her face. This is what she wanted. This is what she had always wanted. It leaned forward as if to kiss her. She leaned forward to receive it, to meet its embrace, and as she did, it grabbed her by the neck. As its talons dug into her neck, she smiled with glee. Its talons finally ripped through the skin of her neck, and blood began to gush forth like a roaring waterfall. But as this happened, she gasped in orgasmic joy. She didn't feel the pain at all. All she could think of is how wonderful and beautiful this all was. How good it felt, and how honored she was that it chose her to come to respond to. Out of all the people in the world to ever live, it chose her. She saw then, deep in her mind and her heart, that when she called the demon down onto this earth, she called something else. Something that had reached into her mind and touched it. And she saw that it was beautiful. Soon after this, as the being's grip tightened viciously to the point where her head snapped off from her spinal cord and overwhelming darkness took her, she truly felt nothing but joy, for this is what she wanted. This is what she had always wanted.